And sure enough, it makes the news. 2017, just recently, the Japan Times I have here. I'm happy to announce I'm on Ben Greenfield Fitness, a huge podcast coming up soon. I do interviews all the time, and one of the things I like to talk about when I do interviews is the global problem we've got with artificial estrogens, hormone imbalances, fats, cholesterol, all this stuff. And one of the papers I like to talk about is this one here in a journal called Environmental Science and Technology from 2015. And it's about, well, it's called Elevated Accumulation of Parabens and Their Metabolites in Marine Mammals from the United States Coastal Water. Parabens. They start off by saying the widespread exposure of humans to parabens present in personal care products. That's where you find them. You find them in your shampoo, your soap. You're rubbing them on your body. They're going through your skin. You're getting exposed to artificial estrogen. We talked about parabens specifically in a different episode earlier. Let's move on. This is well known, they say. Our exposure is well known. Nevertheless, little is known about the accumulation of parabens in marine organisms. Not to mention humans. I mean, we don't... And every study I've seen suggests that we store a lot of parabens in our fat. It causes a lot of health problems. But marine organisms, let's move on. We've been talking about infertility. We've been talking about a lot of health problems. Animals have these same problems too. All right? In this study, 6 parabens were investigated, 121 tissue samples, 8 species of marine mammals. I mean, they looked at a type of sperm whale, they looked at dolphins, they looked at sea otters, they even looked at polar bears. Every single sample, guess what it had? Parabens. These things are going into our water supply, they're circulating the oceans, they're working up the food chain, causing health problems in animals. Let me give you one example here and show you a map of Japan. This example is 2015 in a journal called Chemosphere. The title of this scientific research paper is Migration of Nonylphenol from Food-Grade Plastic is Toxic to the Coral Reef Fish Species. It's toxic. Nonylphenol, what's that? That's an alkyl phenol. I talk about it in my book. It makes the top 10 list because it's a soap estrogenic. It's commonly found in soaps. They don't even have to put it on the ingredient list. Here they're talking about it as in the context of plastic because sometimes it's put into plastics. Anyway, it says nonylphenol is a non-ionic surfactant. It's like a soap, right? Surfactant, soap. It's also found in many plastics. We exposed marine orchid dottybacks, a certain type of fish, and it decreased short and long-term survival of these fish. All right? Again, we've been talking about infertility. You know this already. Chemosphere, again, same journal. This title of this paper is Endocrine Disruptor Nonylphenol, same chemical, and BPA contamination in Okinawa and Ishigaki Islands in Japan, within coral reefs and adjacent river mouths. All right, BPA contamination, alkyl phenol contamination, certain islands in Japan. What do they find? Certain chemicals possess the potential to modulate endocrine systems. That means hormones. And we've been talking about artificial estrogens. That's what they're talking about. And these chemicals thereby interfere with reproduction and developmental processes in the wild. We analyzed, again, nonylphenol and BPA, and they found an appreciable amount of BPA was detected in sediments on one coral reef site. In addition, significant numbers of river sediment samples showed appreciable amounts of this alkyl phenol and BPA, this soap estrogen and this plastic estrogen, BPA. Significant amounts. Lots of this stuff coming out of these rivers, dumping into the ocean. And sure enough, it makes the news. 2017, just recently, the Japan Times I have here, in an article called 70% of coral in Okinawa's Seki Seishoko area is dead. 70% of the coral in this area is dead. Okinawa. It's the largest coral reef in Japan. 70% of it's dead. How come? Here's a map. Look, here's Okinawa. It's an island south of Japan. Here's Ishigaki, that same island from that other study. They're close by. These are basically merging the scientific research and the news article, and it's years later now. We're finally seeing it in the news, but The guys doing research on this have been talking about this for a long time and saying, hey, look, this is killing off humans. It's causing infertility. It's wrecking the marine populations, even the polar bears. It's causing infertilities in all kinds of wildlife, and it's a huge problem.